Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Bruce Berger. I'm the Director of the Community Planning and Economic Development Department. Today we're gathered to celebrate Community Development Week. So this is something that every week, or every April, cities across the country usually try to highlight, in particular, federal funding and ways in which those federal funds are used in individual communities across the country. In Davenport, we have two primary funding sources that we're going to highlight for you today. Community Development Block Grant Funds, which we like to call CDBG, which, of course, if you intermingle those, don't worry, that happens all the time. And we also are going to talk a little bit today, even though we're calling it CDBG Week, a little bit about the home funds. So in Davenport, we receive $1.1 million roughly in CDBG each year and around $400,000 in home. We're a direct entitlement. Heather's going to go into some detail on that later, so I won't steal that thunder. I just basically wanted to let everybody know what the benefits are for community development, the beneficiaries, I should say, of all these federal funds. It ranges. We have, I think in the last 5 years, and some of this information's in your packet, roughly 22,000 people have benefited from programs and projects that have been funded with those two funding sources alone in the last 5 years in Davenport. So if you look at that with our population, that's like 1 in 5. So chances are, if it's not you, somebody you know has benefited from these federal programs. So it's a big deal. You can use it for things like housing rehab. You can use it for infrastructure that supports affordable housing. You can use it for programs and services that benefit Davenport children and families. Economic development. We use it for a whole host of things in some creative ways, which we hope to show you today. So. With that in mind, I just kind of a little bit of housekeeping. I want to let you know what the plan is here today. We've got a couple of speakers lined up, and then we are going to, after maybe 20, 25 minutes, we're going to leave from this room and walk over. You can drive if you like, but we're going to walk over just roughly a block to 501 Brady, which is a new apartment complex that was just built using Community Development Block Grant dollars. And we're going to flood a street. It's a permeable paver, and so we're going to see, and it's going to drain. We think. So.
We're going to get our feet.
Exactly. I'd like to introduce our Alderman at Large, Alderman Grip. Is going to relay a few comments. He actually no stranger to federal funding. He understands the complexity. He's been a great advocate for all the federal funds that we've been using here in Davenport. So thank you, Alderman Grip.
Thanks, Bruce. Good morning, and thank you for joining us as we celebrate Community Development Week here in Davenport. I'd like to start off by extending a special welcome to Congressman Lobsek. Thank you for your ongoing support of these two programs and also for taking the time to be here today. I'd also like to welcome Penny Vasic from Senator Chuck Grassley's office. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us and for yours and the Senator's support. Unfortunately, a representative from Senator Ernst's office is unable to be here today, but we want to acknowledge them, and we look forward to working with the Senator on these issues in the future. We'd also like to acknowledge the city staff who executes these programs, who takes concepts and makes them into reality, specifically Heather and Rita and the rest of the CPED team. They are a really fantastic team who are getting great results in the city of Davenport, absolutely. And then last but not least are the developers and contractors who made these projects happen. Newberry Living, Foresight Construction, and all of their suppliers and subcontractors. As you guys are going to see here shortly, the projects that have taken place are really spectacular and turned out well and are great assets to the city of Davenport. So we've come here this morning to celebrate Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership programs. These are federal programs paid out from the federal government and then implemented by the city of Davenport. These dollars are used to invest in Davenport, and it's for the residents by providing affordable housing for working families, revitalizing neighborhoods, improving infrastructure, and increasing the tax base. The projects that you're going to see today exemplify the flexibility and adaptability that federal programs bring to our community in the way of development. With federal and private dollars working together, we're able to take a weedy parking lot in a corridor of downtown Davenport and turn it into a really sleek apartment complex, both serving working families and also market rate. And I'd like to point out that we're using these dollars very strategically to try to take the success that we've had downtown and push that success up the hill into our central city neighborhoods. If you guys will recall, last year when we took this tour, we went to East 6th Street and we looked at a couple of homes that were built using these dollars. 2 weeks ago, City Council was presented for the first time with a private development project directly across the street. 6 $200,000 plus homes that are going to be built in that neighborhood. It is a perfect example of public dollars spurring private development, and our hope is that the projects that you see today will spur development up the hill to the Hilltop campus and the neighborhoods that surround it. You'll also see how CDBG funds can be used not only to build workforce housing, but also to build infrastructure to support it. And you'll see that in the permeable street that was built. And this is a great win because you know that we have infrastructure issues in older cities, and they're very resource consuming. So to be able to use federal dollars that not only support a specific project, but also support the neighborhood and take a burden off of our capital improvement budget, that is a huge win for the entire city of Davenport. The investment required to bring properties and neighborhoods that are in disrepair up to standard is really significant. It's a battle we're fighting here in Davenport, and we're committed to reclaiming our older neighborhoods, and the CDBG and home programs are federal tools in our toolbox that help us to do that. They improve our central city neighborhoods, provide affordable housing, increase the tax base, and put local businesses to work. Congressman Loebsack, you can see the impact that these two programs are having in our city. We thank you for your past support, and we know that you will continue to support these programs that are building better neighborhoods in the city of Davenport. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now bring up Senator Loebsack for a few remarks. Please give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate that. Thank you. Great to be here. I want to thank Kyle for that wonderful introduction. Penny, make sure you don't tell Senator Grassley that I was called Senator, wherever you are. Sorry, Kyle. And Senator Ernst doesn't have a representative here, so I don't have to worry about her in this case. But Bruce, thank you so much. You've been doing a great job. And Kyle, Heather, Rita, all the folks who have been working on these programs over the years have done a great job. I'm only sorry we're not getting on a bus this year or a trolley this year to get around, and see a lot of things. But we're gonna see a really good example of what we can do with CDBG money. And I was actually over there a few weeks back, not that long ago, but I wasn't able to get inside. It was a Saturday, and so. We were with Kim over there with the Hilltop folks, and checking out the particular facility. I remember it wasn't that long ago when I was over that way, and it was such an eyesore to say. I mean, I'm being diplomatic. It was an eyesore. It was much worse than that, as you know, to look at that hole in the ground, that big space. It's really going to be fantastic, and I am looking forward to getting inside. I guess you must plan this at this time of the year to get your congressman to come and hear great things about CDBG and home, because this is the budget time of the year, right? Okay. We have already seen the so-called skinny budget of this administration. It was presented by the director of the Office of Management and Budget, Mick Mulvaney, who until he became the head of OMB was a colleague of mine. He's from South Carolina. It's a very, very difficult budget, to say the least. In effect, they want to zero out the program. This is really quite unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. There are Democrats and Republicans alike who understand the importance of CDBG and home money. It is not a slush fund. It is not a waste of money. We have seen the results of these investments. We're going to hear even more. When someone tells me that a so-called government program isn't working because we don't see the results, and I know there are results, then I push back really, really hard. Because there are results. We've already heard a little bit of this. And what is the number for every dollar that's invested by CDBG? Is it $11 or $12?
Five. Most recent year, and 11 the year before that.
Right, at least $5 in private investment that comes in. Now, some people say, well, that'll happen anyway. It won't happen anyway. It has been demonstrated over and over again, time and time again. That private money will not necessarily be invested if we didn't have the public money there in the first place. And then, as was just mentioned, I was there last year, I guess it was, when we were looking at the home that was homes that were constructed in no small measure because of the public monies, and then to be able to spur the development across the street. That's the kind of thing we're talking about, folks. This works. This program works. And I remember when we had the big flood in the Great Flood of 2008, we had CDBG money come in to Cedar Rapids and other communities too, to help rebuild, not just FEMA money, not just Economic Development Administration money, but CDBG money as well, that come in. We had CDBG money come in to help with the Iowa Flood Center and setting up gauges in all these streams around the state. That was a matching grant of sorts. And if we lose the money from the state for the Flood Center, we could lose that money as well. A bit of an aside. But this is so important. This is investment in a community because it leads to more investments. And so I'm excited to get over there. I know you want to show a little presentation, so I'm going to be brief. All I'll say is that moving forward, when it comes to the budget process, I will continue to do everything I can to fight like heck to make sure that we don't lose this money. And I will present this kind of evidence when I can. I've already written a letter to the Appropriations Committee to make sure that we have robust funding for CDBG in the next fiscal year. We'll see what comes of all that. We've got a hard fight. We've got a struggle going on here, folks. And the administration is bound and determined to cut back on a number of these programs, if not eliminate them entirely. So I will do everything I can, and thank you for giving me the information I need, because that's evidence I need to make the arguments that I need to make when I go back to Washington, D.C. Thanks so much. All right, thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Loebsack, and thanks also again to Senator Grassley's office for participating as well today. Next on the agenda is our presentation by our own Heather Johnson. And I just want to say just briefly, Heather, for those of you that work with federal regulations, the complexities involved. To be able to juggle those complexities and be aware of them, but then also to pull back and envision kind of the larger big picture and how they can be creatively used is a real talent. So we're lucky to have Heather, and Heather, take it away.
I'm a little shorter, so I'm just going to bend this down. So we'll be just a few minutes talking about the program and kind of the history, the funding, the amount, and then we have kind of a flashy finale for you here with our presentation, and then we'll move over to Fifth Street. So you've heard from Bruce and from Alderman Grip and Representative Loebsack kind of some of the challenges with the funding, and we don't want to focus exclusively on the challenges. We know that they're there, but we want to look at all the positive things that we're doing and let that kind of speak for itself. And so these programs have been around, CDBG since 1974, and Home since 1994. And speaking of those challenges, CDBG has been cut by 48% and home by 52% from their highest years. And that's a big challenge. But even within that, we're able to use money strategically, as Representative Loebsack spoke about, and try to fit the right money with the right project. So CDBG is almost never the sole source of funding for our rental projects and our economic development projects and even our infrastructure projects. There just simply isn't enough money there. But what it can do is fill a gap. So when a developer comes to us, so 501 Brady or Lafayette Square, which we'll see a little bit about, those developers come to us and they have a package in place. And some of that is investor money, so it's market rate money. Some of it may be historic tax credits, some of it may be low income tax credits, and some of it may just be their own money because they think this is a cool project and they want to do it. And so what we do is we look at what they bring, we look at what they need to get it done, and then we look at what commitment of federal funds would be required and what they're willing to commit in return. So it is an investment of federal funds, and so because the federal government expects an outcome from that, they need to return to us a certain period of affordability if it's housing, or they need to return to us a certain number of jobs if it's economic development. So it isn't money that goes out into the community and you never see again. You just don't know you're seeing it. That money is out there in the form of apartments. It's in the form of owner-occupied rehab loans. It's in the form of your coworker who you didn't know is funded maybe in part by a CDBG loan. And a big thing that we do, as Alderman Grip talked about, being committed to reclaiming our neighborhoods, is slum and blight removal. In fact, our economic development team is working right now on a facade program in some of our commercial areas to help spruce them up and remove the impression, if not the fact, of decay. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing, and it's out there, you just don't see it. I fortunately see it because I work here and I also do our annual report. So there's lots of requirements that go along with federal funding, and we meet them all. But it's a challenge sometimes. So that's why we talk about the positive things. And we're going over to visit 501 Brady. 501 Brady is a market rate and affordable project. So more than half the units, 51% of the units are for working families. 49% are for market rate. So you'll see when we go over the same unit on one floor, the exact same floor plan, the rents are different. So a market rate one might be $1,400 and an affordable one might be $900. And that's just to make sure that everybody has a chance to take advantage of those opportunities. But it's beautiful, it's very modern, it's very sleek, but it's not the only program that we have going right now. We also funded Lafayette Square, which is another of our downtown buildings. In the last 10 years, we have over 935 units that are funded in some form with home. That's the total units, but only about 20% of those are affordable. So there's a misconception that all of the units are affordable, and they're not. So we do about 20% of them, and in the downtown, it's less than that. It's only about 18%. So Lafayette is our new, I have Dawn. Dawn's my clicker of my button. So Lafayette is 48 units. It's right down the street. It's leasing up now. And we've been on a 1-year project to show you this demonstration in partnership with the county, who I invited, but I don't think they were able to make it today. So this is kind of, we can't walk over to Lafayette. It's too far away. So we brought Lafayette to you. And this is what we brought for you. So. The camera jumped around just a tiny bit. You should know that the camera that took our time lapse, that's about 16,000 photographs over the course of a year, every 10 minutes. It's on the 6th floor of the county administration building next to their copy machine. So when the copy machine would get bumped, it would bump the camera, and that's the jumps that you would see. So it's just make sure you're still paying attention. So about once a week, I would have to call the county and say, "Can you adjust your camera?" because it would get off. So Lafayette, it's about $11 million project, 48 units. Of those, some are affordable through the home program, some are affordable through the low-income housing tax program, and some are market rate. So when you walk in, just as 501, you will not see one unit to another which ones are affordable and which ones are market rate. They're identical. And that commitment for affordability is not forever. So Lafayette will be affordable for 15 or 20 years. 501 Brady that we'll see today is affordable for only 10. And so at the end of that 10 years, that developer has a unit that he can rent to anybody. It could be affordable, it could be not affordable, at their choice. And so it's something that is a long-term investment in our community. It'll be here right now. Right now we're managing 935 units. As I say, we monitor them every day or every year to make sure everybody's dotting their I's and crossing their T's. And we don't have problems with them. So because they're functioning in our community the way that they should and the way the programs were designed. So that is all I have for you at the moment. And I think Bruce is going to come up, but we're getting ready to make our move over to 501 Brady. If you have any questions, just let us know.
So just a little bit of housekeeping. Thank you, Heather. We're going to now wander over to, we're a few minutes ahead of schedule, so you can grab a treat on the way if you want. There's a little bit of construction on the walk over, so I think there's some work at 5th and Main, and then they're doing some construction on Brady Street, so it actually constrains that. It's easier to walk across because you can kind of scooch across a little bit. You only have 2 lanes of travel to cross. But we're going to do the tour first of the 501 Brady. And so you have a little bit of time to wander around, and then I don't know if it's around maybe 11:30, 11:40ish. 11:30 we'll do the flooding of 5th Street. You can see how well it drains. And then after that, by the way, if you want to leave from there, if you need to leave from here now, feel free. This room is open. We'll be able to wander back if you want to come back here and ask any questions after you've seen everything and want to talk a little bit outside of the weather. So with all that, everybody good to go? Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate all your interest in CD Week.
Like